Hello and welcome to this video. This video is going to be talking to you about how to create your speech. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to create an outline and some things that you need to know when you're delivering a speech online. So we're going to go through this quick little PowerPoint, and hopefully by the end of it you will know how to create your outline. Your outline is really important. Actually, if I go back to my first slide, a lot of people ask me, do I have to do it like this? Yes, you have to do it like this. And the reason why is many communication scholars agree that this is the correct way to create an outline. You wouldn't want to build a house without a firm foundation, and that's what your outline is. It's a foundation. So whenever you're giving a speech, there's really 4 different modes of delivery. There's manuscript, memorized, impromptu, and extemporaneous. My goal for you is for you to create an extemporaneous speech. Okay, an extemporaneous speech is planned, prepared, and spoken from outlined notes. I don't want you to write your speech word for word. And the reason why is if you write your speech out word for word, you're going to want to read it word for word. And when you do that, it's very boring. And we can see you reading that speech. I don't want it to be memorized because a memorized speech takes even longer to do. You not only have to write it out word for word, but then you have to memorize it word for word. And if you forget a word in the middle of your memorization, if you don't have that speech in front of you, you're going to be up a creek. Impromptu is where you have no idea what you're going to talk about and you're really giving a speech on the fly, and we're not going to be doing that in here. So your very first speech in this class, your introductory speech, is what I call a past, present, future speech. So you're going to be doing this extemporaneously, meaning that you're going to plan it out, you're going to prepare it, you're going to create your outline, and you're going to speak from notes. You're going to look at us, you're going to look down at your notes, and you're going to look back at us. You're not going to keep your head buried in your notes and or read word for word from your computer screen. That's important. The very first thing you do when you're creating a speech is you analyze your audience. Now, we don't know a lot about our audience at this point. You know that they're all in a college class with you. So they're college age, but that could be, 15 with our dual credit students, all the way up to, 99. It doesn't matter. We don't know how old they are. We're not really going to be able to interview them, although you will have met the people in your group by the time you watch this video. So you'll be able to kind of see how old you think they might be, how many girls, how many guys in your group. You can always reach out to your group members and ask them questions on things you think they might want to hear about. Now, this first speech, again, it's your past, present, future speech. So you don't really have a lot of choice in what you talk about. But in your persuasive speech, you do. So that's important for you to think about when you're getting ready to do your persuasive speech. Okay. The next thing you need to know is, what's my general purpose? On the past, present, future speech, your general purpose is to inform. You're informing us about your past, your present, and your future. In your persuasive speech, your general purpose is to persuade us, to do something, be something, change something, stop something, want something. And then the other type of speech you could give is a celebratory or entertaining speech, but we will not be giving one of those in here. Okay. Again, on your past, present, future speech, you don't have to think about topic selection, but on your persuasive speech, you do. So some ways that you can think about topic selection, do some brainstorming. What I like to do is write down 4 topics, like say education, entertainment, politics, and environment. And then I give myself a minute to write down all the topics I can think of in those 4 areas, and that might help me brainstorm a little bit. I always tell my students in class, in persuasive speeches, start with what makes you mad, what upsets you, what's your biggest pet peeve, and go from there. You can do some concept mapping, so once you pick a topic, you can kind of brainstorm off of that. What are the different points that you might want to talk about after that? But you have to think about, what do you want your audience to get from the speech? What do you want the goal to be? And then obviously, can you fit it in the time frame? You're going to have 5 to 7 minutes to give your persuasive speech, so it's got to fit in that time frame. Your past, present, future speech, you have 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes to give that speech. So let's start talking about the outline. The outline is a really important part of speech prep. And typically, you're always going to use a Roman numeral outline, which means Roman numerals are going to be your first symbol, followed by numbers or letters. You're going to have indentions that will indicate the importance of the thought and information. So your Roman numerals are always going to be the furthest to the left. and then indented under that is going to be the next thought, and then indented under that would be the next thought. So there's 3 major sections of an outline: an introduction, body, and conclusion. So it's going to look like this. Your Roman numeral is going to be 1, and that will be introduction. And then under that you'll have a letter, A, which is your attention getter. So your attention getter could be a joke, a story, hypothetical or a real question, statistics, facts, quotes, verses. It really can be anything to get our attention. What your attention getter is not is, hi, my name is, and my topic is. That is not an attention getter. We never ever want to use that as an attention getter. But maybe you start with a joke or a story about yourself. You ask us a question that you want us to think about, or a question you want us to answer. You start with a statistic or fact, specifically if they're shocking, that's helpful. And then a quote or a verse. All right, the second part of your introduction is what we call justification / credibility. So you have to tell us, why are you talking about this? And then, why are you credible to talk about this? Now, in your past, present, future speech, you're talking about it because I'm making you talk about it. But why did you choose the things that you are talking about out of all the things that happened in your life? Why did you choose these things? So that could be part of your justification. And obviously, no one's more credible to talk about you than you. C of your introduction is going to be the thesis. This is your main idea, the goal of the speech. And then D is going to be your preview of points. So that's the points you're going to be covering in the speech. In the speech world, we say, tell them what you're going to tell them. And that is your thesis or your preview of points right there. So you're going to have 4 main parts of your introduction. You can remember it through Inigo Montoya. It's a little bit of a stretch, but The Princess Bride is my all-time favorite movie. So polite greeting, hello. Name, credibility, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. There's your justification. And then your thesis, prepare to die. That's what he's giving out of this speech. So in the body of your outline, you're going to use what we call the 4S structure. Now, this is not in your book. This is an SPC special. This is what we teach at SPC. So you're going to have 4 S's in each of your main body paragraphs. S number 1, signpost. These are going to be your words like first, to begin, let's start. Your book may call them transitions, okay? Second S, state. This is where you're going to tell them. So you tell them what you're going to tell them. That's in your introduction. Then you tell them. So you state your point, okay? So in your past, present, future speech, it's going to sound something like, to begin, I would like to share a little bit with you about my past. So we know to begin, it's your first point, and then sharing about your past, that is your statement. You're going to support it, so you're going to back up your point, you're going to give some information about your past, and then you're going to summarize, you're going to restate the overall point. So it might sound something like, now you've learned a little bit about my past. And so that is the 4S structure, and then you start all over in your second point. Next, let's move on to my present. That's your signpost and statement. You tell them about your present, and you say, there's some information about where I currently am. Finally, there's your signpost to your next point. So you're starting over with the 4S structure. So each main body point is going to follow that 4S structure. And in your conclusion, then, you will A, review your points. Okay, you're going to restate the points you just talked about. So you're going to tell them what you told them. So in speech, we say, tell them what you're going to tell them, tell them what you told them. Because your audience doesn't listen to you 100% of the time. So you need to make sure that you're repeating yourself enough so that if I zoned out, I could come back in and I would know exactly where you were in your speech. B, you're going to restate the thesis, so restate the overall point of your presentation. C, you're going to call us to action. Okay, now, there is some debate about whether or not you should have a call to action in an informative speech, and I believe you should. Because what do you want your audience to do with this information? On your past, present, future speech, it's going to be something simple like, now that you know a little bit more about me, hopefully you'll feel more comfortable in the group with me, it'll be easier to work with me, or maybe you found some things in this speech that reminded you of yourself, or something like that. And then D is going to be your closing statement, and you're going to end in any of the ways that you began the speech. So you can end with a story, joke, quote, statistic, fact. It doesn't have to be the way that you started the speech. So if you started the speech with a story, you don't have to end with a story, although you can. And when you do that, it's called book ending. But you can end with a joke or end with a quote. And any way that you started the speech, you can also end the speech. Okay? And that is a quick thing about your outline. So this is an outline that one of my students gave to me. This is for persuasive speech. So You can see she has Roman numeral 1 there, introduction. A is her attention getter. Why do we give our animals more rights than our children? That's a great question, because when someone says that, you're going to be like, wait, what? Justify, okay? So she says we wait 6 weeks before thinking of injecting puppies or kittens, but why do we let our children be injected with potentially harmful chemicals before they're even 24 hours old? Thesis, these vaccines contain mercury and are harming our children. And then preview points. She tells you exactly what 3 points she's going to talk about. It's a neurotoxin that leads to autism in some children. It's only used as a preservative, and at the very least should be postponed until babies are old enough to be medically evaluated. So those are her 3 main points. Here's her body. You can see her signpost, statement, and support. Now, I don't always make you write your summary sentence in your outline, because most outlines don't include a summary sentence. So you don't have to put that in there. Just don't forget to do it, okay, in your speech. So you can see, so her Roman numeral 2 is body. Then she has her letter A, and then she has her 1, 2, and 3. Those are her supports. Now, that's not her entire speech. She didn't write it out word for word. She just wrote a complete sentence about what her supports are, and that's what I want you to do. And then you can see how she has her sources here. That's where source 2 is, that's where source 3 is, source 1. And so I want you to be able to put those sources in your outline. You don't need a source for this first speech, but you will need sources for your persuasive speech. And then here's her conclusion. She has a signpost to her conclusion, perfect. Restates her thesis, restates her points. I have restate thesis there, I'm sorry. And then restates her overall thesis. She has a call to action, and then she has a closing. So that's a great outline right there. And that would be her list of sources. So you will need to have a bibliography of sources when you have your persuasive speech, okay? Now, from that outline, you will create a speaking outline. So on your speaking outline, you do not use full sentences. You always use keyword, key phrase. If you use full sentences, guess what you're going to want to do? Read those full sentences, okay? Continue to use those same symbols on your outline that you use in your outline on your note card so you know where you're at. Include entire source citations, though. I don't want you to forget those source citations because they are important when you start citing them in your persuasive speech. Highlight if you need to, and number your note cards. You never want to get confused on what note card goes where. Okay? One other thing that I want to show you very quickly, and that is some things that you need to think about on speech day in an online class. Okay, so the first thing, you need to be present for each person's speech. So there's typically 6 to 8. In our class, there's 6 people per group. So you need to be there when the first person begins, and you need to stay until the last person leaves. You need to leave your camera on the entire time, and 5 points will be deducted from your speech if you arrive late or leave early, okay? Do not wear a cap. Make sure we can see your face. Make sure there's good lighting on your face. We don't want you to read word for word from your computer screen. This is obvious. We want you to use notes, and I'd like to be able to see those notes so that I know you're not reading from full pieces of paper. Look at the camera so the audience feels like you're having eye contact with them. Mute yourself during your peers' speeches so that we can't hear your background noise. Don't have any distractions in the room, such as other people, children, pets, or even having your ceiling fan on or blinking lights, anything that creates any weird effect, because we can see you. Your outline should be submitted 1 hour before your speaking time, and you will have a time limit on each speech, and you'll lose points. If you go over time or under time, it's -2 for the first minute, and then -5 for every minute after that. Okay, so those are just some things that I want you to know for this very first speech. I will also have some typed up information as well, but I hope that that gives you a good overview of how to create your outline. Obviously, there is information about that in your book as well, in chapters 11, 12, 13. So anyway, that is about your first speech and how to create your outline. I hope you're doing well in the course, and as always, if you have any questions, please let me know.